Good afternoon, viewers. Today in our news report, we're going to cover a documentary on the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan on 6th and 9th August 1945, killing almost 200,000 innocent citizens, many of them women and children, as the concluding event of World War II. We'll be covering the events before and after the bombings. The nuclear bombs that were dropped on these two cities within a gap of 3 days have been the worst attack in human history. This attack destroyed not only the present but also the future generations for many years to come. The after effects of nuclear bombs like cancer and deformity are still experienced in these cities. It is written as the worst attack in humankind. It was mass murder that America committed on the innocent citizens of Japan in retaliation to the attack on Pearl Harbor. To make our viewers understand the reason why America claims to have done the right thing by attacking the innocents and justifying their actions, we need to go back to the real reasons for the attack. America was against entering World War II because they had experienced an emotional and an economic setback after World War I in 1918 and the Great Depression in 1929. They had adopted isolationism and had decided to stay out of any wars, including Europe. In 1939, when World War II started and Hitler started breaking all clauses in the Treaty of Versailles, empowering his air force and military, America sat and watched from a distance as they only wanted to save their economy. They took it as an opportunity to sell war material to both sides. Hitler was advancing to take over all democracies in Europe and turn them into German-speaking dictatorships. America let Hitler destroy all democracies, including those that were his friends like Spain. On the other hand, Japan was making its moves in the Far East. Japan attacked the US Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii on 7 December 1941 because they wanted to reduce the power of the US in the Pacific in order to seize oil resources in the Far East. This was a huge mistake as they had disturbed a sleeping giant. America took the advantage of Britain and USSR, both being equally disturbed by Hitler, and once they snubbed Hitler and defeated him in the war. The three rulers of the world at that time, Truman, Churchill, and Stalin, got together at Potsdam to decide how Japan was to be dealt with. Here they released a declaration warning to Japan to back off or to be ready for complete destruction. The Potsdam Declaration, released on 26 July 1945, was a threat rather than a warning. The Japanese leaders refused to accept the terms stated in the declaration. Hence, on the eventful morning of 6 August 1945, an aircraft called Enola Gay carried the little boy under the command of Paul Tibbets and made the impactful impact on the city of Hiroshima at exact 8:15 a.m. The impact of the bomb was so huge that it created a 60,000 feet tall mushroom-like cloud, generating such force and heat that it killed almost 80,000 people at the exact same moment. The Japanese leaders did not agree to back off, so within 3 days of the first attack on 9th August 1945, the Fat Man, another nuclear bomb, was dropped on Nagasaki, taking 76,000 innocent lives. Many suffered burns and injuries because of the radiation that left lifelong impacts. The pressure caused the skin to rip off human bodies. Broken glass got stuck in the bodies, causing beyond imagination pain. Fire caused by the explosion lasted for days, destroying miles around the epicenter of the explosion. There was mass destruction, destroying homes and factories, basically paralyzing the nation from any further development. 50% of the people died of burns and the rest due to radiation, poisoning, or were trapped under rubble. Families were destroyed, many were left orphans, and many lost their children. American press was ready with the excuses to justify the inhuman attack. They convinced Americans they were bringing the unwanted World War II to an end. They were going to save the lives of Americans that were going to be lost in the war. Over 50% of the American population was in agreement to the attacks. The newspapers were raving about the accomplishments the Americans had made. Truman made several comments regarding the attack which showed his viewpoint. He was in complete agreement of using the nuclear bomb, even though he knew very well what the bomb was capable of. He touched the Americans' emotional values by claiming that he was punishing those that had mistreated the prisoners of war. Truman wanted to teach Japanese a lesson at whatever cost. He wanted to defeat the beast by being a beast himself. Truman justified his actions by saying that he had used a deadly weapon on the military base not to harm the civilians. Churchill, on the other hand, had slightly varying views. In his comments, he feared how he would answer his creator. Nevertheless, Britain had also given their consent to the most inhuman deed. There were bound to be many questions that he would need to answer in the future. The nuclear attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were the first and the last ever nuclear attacks made in human history on any civilian targets. Though we have learned a lesson on the destructions a nuclear bomb can cost us, Japan has learned it the hard way. They experienced the after effects of the bomb and its radiations for generations. The destruction a nuclear bomb can cause is beyond human perception. 200,000 people lost their lives due to the explosion and immediate aftermath caused mainly by the firestorm the explosion caused. Japanese have now adopted the way of peace and harmony. It is the belief of the citizens that war is not the solution to any problem. The experience to such destruction in the face has made them value life more. More than half of the survivors dedicated their lives to research and to track the subsequent effects of the blast across their lifespan. The Radiation Effects Research Foundation was set up in 1945, funded by the American and Japanese governments to follow up on the survivors of the blast. Japanese have dedicated several monuments in memory of those who lost their lives. The statue of Sadako Sasaki is one such monument dedicated to the children who lost their lives due to the radiation. This statue depicts a little girl with a crane on its head as a symbol of peace. Under no circumstances were the actions taken by Americans justified, especially because they knew the consequences were going to be horrific and devastating. Aryan Manchanda signing out for CTV News Channel. Thank you and good afternoon once again.